Hi. This isn't about the Deathwatch 120 mortal wound tactic that was removed before the edition really started. The Deathwatch have been nerfed quite a bit since then. Apparently having a tournament percentage win rate in the 30s for about a year doesn't give you any bonuses or free passes in the next edition. Ah well, at least it seems that the powerful Votan were crushed. No offense to the players who collect some tiny mutants that worship AI, just offense to the mutant.
The heretic. The alien.
Today we are taking the last part of that sister's mantra and making a whole army about it. With not mortal wounds. We had a change to how devastating wounds work. They are no longer mortal wounds. So sometimes in this video, hopefully I won't, but I might say mortal wounds, I mean devastating wounds. I'll try and catch any time I make the mistake with a little visual on the screen. Devastating wounds are great, because rules that stop mortal wounds don't stop devastating wounds. So here's the Crusaders, and there's their rule as an example. I know it only works when you put a character in the unit, and you're not likely to put a character in that unit, but there it is as an example. The drawback comparatively is that they don't spill over to other models like mortal wounds do. So if you're able to do a lot of damage 1, devastating wounds, that is optimal. Unless you are targeting one model with a lot of wounds, like a monster or a vehicle, then mortal wounds are best. Now what model is there that is new, big-ish, tough, and has resistance to mortal wounds, but a weakness to devastating wounds? Why, it's the Norn Emissary. Did the thumbnail give it away? It has a 2+ save, 16 wounds, and a 4+ feel no pain against mortal wounds. Though of course, not devastating wounds. So the Space Marines have a unit or 2 or 3 that can put this monster down with surprising effectiveness. Let's talk about the first unit that isn't doing the devastating wounds that people thought it would. On paper it does, but in practice it just doesn't. Sternguard with a character with bolter discipline. So Sternguard went up in price, partially to prepare for them getting close combat weapons back on the Sergeant, but they only have strength 4 bolt guns. They are weak. You're fishing for 6s to do 1 mortal wound, which is not great even with sustained hits 5+ in the Devastated Doctrine. You can put out 30 shots from rapid firing, and those best shots kill about 4 tough enemies for 320 points. They have a special ability that lets them shoot again, but unless you shot at a unit that was almost dead before going for your main target, you're not really utilizing the best of their special rule. If you did fire at something else first that isn't your main target, then you risk some bad luck or stratagem shenanigans. Even smoke for -1 to hit can really upset their day. And that nearly dead but not really dead unit, you didn't put Oath of Moment on it. It wasn't going to be the target. So firing at something else after trying to destroy a unit isn't really worth the risk. So which Space Marine unit am I talking about? Do you think I'm going to talk about the Bladeguard? Did Dr. Crankenfoof tell you that they were good? They're an expensive model with toughness 4 and a 3+ save, even after their points decrease. No, we're talking about Kill Team Cassius, which is cheaper than 10 Sternguard plus Librarian plus Bolter Discipline, and it has so many advantages. They can deep strike. Can your Sternguard or Primaris Marines deep strike? They have a Psyker in the squad, but they don't suffer from having the Psyker keyword. But there is definitely a dude who's doing psychic attacks. And something that's really big against Tyranids, and we're seeing a lot more Tyranid players with the Leviathan box set coming out, Kill Team Cassius is almost fearless. They have an absurdly high leadership of 5+ with the ability to re-roll it. So against the Shadow in the Warp and a Neuro Lictor and a Neuro Tyrant, and they are all trying to psych you out, Kill Team Cassius stays strong. This is the only Space Marine unit that truly will know no fear. And now that Insane Bravery has changed to only be once per game and can only be used before the roll, units like this are amazing. Unlike the Proteus Kill Team, which is costed for including the maximum number of Terminators and Bikes and Kill Team Veterans that you can have, Kill Team Cassius is points adjusted for having 1 Terminator, 1 bike, so it is more efficient than a non-optimal Proteus kill team. And you can do some fun tactics to get really close and charge the enemy. So the Biker and the Jump Pack Marines can move 12 inches as a model, which is nice for getting much closer into that charge range. The squad moves up at the slow rate of the 5 inches of the Terminator, and the other veterans keeping pace and in coherency. Then the Jump Pack models move through the front of the unit, still in coherency, and then the Biker moves to be the very tip of the spear. Because of the 2 Jump Pack veterans in 2 inches, the whole squad is in coherency, but has gained about 4 inches to their upcoming charge. Most Marine armies can include them in the Gladius Task Force or other newer detachments like the Firestorm Assault Force. so long as you don't have any other units with a chapter keyword, like a Space Wolf character that has the Space Wolf keyword, and this Dreadnought which has the Blood Angels keyword. As long as you don't have them, you can choose Deathwatch, and you can have any of the regular Marine detachments with all of your normal Marine choices, plus Deathwatch, or you could have the Black Spear Task Force with this unit. Then you're limiting yourself because then you can't have Tactical Marines or Devastating Marines or Scouts. And Kill Team Cassius is a kill team, but they can't be used in the game all about kill teams, the game called Kill Team, despite them being a kill team. They appeared in the Overkill box game as the Genestealer cult were reintroduced to 40k after being hiding since 2nd edition. They can do a lot of devastating wounds from their shooting. That Flamer pistol, it does devastating wounds, and on a 4+ against infantry. The Terminator has a heavy flamer and a power fist, and that power fist has a melter gun, and that does devastating wounds. And the combi melter, and the plasma pistol. These all do devastating wounds. So it's a bit like the Sternguard, but they also do devastating wounds in combat. And unlike with the strength 4 Sternguard, if you don't roll a 6 to wound to cause a devastating wound, then even the Ultramarine with a combat knife is strength 5 minus 2 AP. 3 of the models do D3 or damage 2 in combat, which can kill the harder targets, though it doesn't overspill against weaker things like 1 wound infantry, which is your benefit of mortal wounds over devastating wounds. But the benefit is, the rules that trigger resistance to mortal wounds, devastating wounds are no longer causing mortal wounds, so they don't count. Custodes detachment rule doesn't apply. If you're facing heretics from a traitor legion of the Dark Angels, their Terminators have no resistance to it. Some of the models in Kill Team Cassius have a combat weapon instead of a long vigil melee weapon, but on Kill Team Cassius at least, these have exactly the same profile. The unit had already been corrected so that the heavy flamer went from strength 2 to strength 5, so I'm assuming that this is intentional in how it's meant to be. The long-range vigil weapons are considered bolt weapons under the new classification of what can and can't use the Black Spear Task Force stratagems, although because they can't do devastating wounds, they can't benefit from the special ammunition. Also, heavy bolt rifles of the heavy intercessors are not bolt weapons. The master crafted version is, but the heavy bolt rifles with bolt in their name are not bolt weapons. Neither are their heavy bolters, but the Sternguard heavy bolters are. Index errors strike again. I would call this a pretty obvious error, and I would let your opponent include them as bolt weapons under the rule. So with the use of Oath of Moment, the scourge of Death Stars and monsters, how many wounds are we doing to the horrible Xenos of an Orc Horde? Now, Oath of Moment is going to change. Currently, you can reroll all hit rolls and wound rolls against your target, but once the new Space Marine Codex comes out, it's only going to be reroll hit rolls. This is already the case in Combat Patrol, and it seems like the reason is that power creep is going to come in, and this is a way to balance it. And there will be more and more things in this codex that let you reroll wounds. Currently, it's not super worth taking a Razorback. You get out, the unit gets to reroll their wound rolls when they fire, but if it's against the Oath of Moment target anyway, you're getting no benefit. Part of the issue with Oath of Moment is it doesn't scale well. At 2,000 points, where we're getting a lot of these tournament results that's putting the Space Marines roughly in the middle, it's not doing a great deal. You're picking off, over the course of the game, about half of the enemy army. Whereas at 1,000 points, when the enemy has 5-6 units, yeah, you're going to be putting down their entire army methodically if you're just using Oath of Moment. Never mind all of the rest of the shooting and combat that you've got going on. I would say that an army special rule not scaling well is a bit of a problem, but then we have the Eldar Fate dice that doesn't scale. Regardless of game size, you get 12 of them, whereas in 9th edition, the number of Fate dice you got at the start of the game was dependent on the size of the game you were playing. With Oath of Moment changing to just reroll to hit, there is still a way to get full rerolls to wound on your Oath of Moment target, and that is by using the First Company Task Force detachment. Deathwatch can also use this detachment in the new Space Marine Codex, so let's go with that for now because then that works for currently, and in a few weeks' time, we'll be rerolling our hit rolls and our wound rolls against our Oath of Moment target. So we have 20 Beast Snagger boys, which is roughly the same points as Kill Team Cassius. There's little point using any stratagems to get special ammunition because that only affects bolt weapons, and not anything that does devastating wounds from shooting. So this would only affect like 3 models in the squad unless others with bolt pistols decided they were the best weapon. They are not. From shooting within 12 inches, we're doing a lot of damage with the varying profiles of the weapons, which makes averages a little difficult to do, but being generous to averages, that is 17 orcs dead. Or 11 if we round the averages in the orcs' favour. 4 of them were devastating wounds, but these orcs have a feel no pain, and that rule works against devastating wounds or mortal wounds. Even more reason to include a Hospitaller over an Imagifier. With a charge after that, a charge we are more likely to make thanks to the bike shenanigans of Jet Subaru. I don't know how to pronounce any of these names. Cassius I can manage, but not Veal Donatus, Zamaron Good Eel, Waderick Git, Anton the Lesser, Eric Setaroff, Jesus Notorion, Den Redblade, Enoch Snorlax, and Barry Granitar. So they all charge, and with 38 attacks from 11 models, that's 21 dead orcs. That's enough to kill, if not the whole mob in one, it is enough to finish off what we'd already shot, and also kill a nearby squad of 11 Gretchen, that would be included to have enough points to make them match Kill Team Cassius. This is the power of Kill Team Cassius, and also Oath of Moment. They can kill their points worth in one round. Before we look at hurting something bigger and more emissarial, I need to talk about my sponsor for this video, except I don't have one. This slot could be your sponsor slot, but instead it was taken up by MAID MEADOW Regions 2 Reckoning. Don't be put off by the visual. It looks like it's called MAID MEADOW Region 2 Reckoning. The visual on the 2 instead of the S, don't worry about it. It's definitely MAID MEADOW Regions 2. Kind people heard that I had no sponsors, and so I put out a call to see if there's interest in giving me some money to invest some time in making another fake advert for another fake game. A game that is not being funded, I'm not trying to crowdfund, does not exist, and I only talk about to entertain you. This is MAID MEADOW Regions 2, with 2 times the maids, 2 times the regions without DLC content, and well, the number of meadows is the same. But the maids! We have maid after maid after maid after maid. A lot of people like Trog the Orc Maid with her exceptional sewing, but I like Trug the Orc Maid because of the basket weaving minigame you can use at a low material cost from the village. Trog and Trug are not related. I don't know why everyone thinks they're related. Just because there are 2 orcs in the same place doesn't mean that they must be related. Come on, you know better than that. I encourage you all to play this game, but you can't because it isn't real. But if I can get this hyped this much about a product that isn't real and isn't expected to be real, imagine what I'd be like if a company gave me noticeable amounts of money to talk about their game. But I don't have that. I just have the support of my lovely darlings and viewers who drop money in my Ko-Fi tip jar and who sign up for membership perks like being able to request videos and even get one-on-one advice with me so that my decades of experience can be put to your very specific issue. The members of the Deathwatch also have decades of experience, and in the case of Kill Team Cassius, centuries. Assuming that canonically the band is still together. If they are, then they can fight the Norn Emissary that's appeared in the 4th Tyrannic War, while Cassius's team was fighting initially in the 1st war. So what if Kill Team Cassius had the same attacks against the Norn Emissary, shooting and then combat? From the unit shooting, you're looking at 3 or 4 wounds, with 1 or 2 of them being devastating wounds. So that didn't do as much damage as I was hoping. Now that we're not shooting against an infantry unit, the devastating wounds only trigger on a 6+, not a 4+. So we have to charge in. As we've seen, combat is what this kill team excels at, but what if the Norn Emissary uses Overwatch and tries to use its precision attack to remove Cassius, thus robbing the unit of the devastating wounds ability? Or if it just wants to hit the unit with 2d6 plus 2 shots? The +2 is from the blast. Well, we have yet another ability, a Psychic Hood that gives a 4+ feel no pain against psychic attacks, so the big beast is unlikely to do anything. In combat, there are more than 3 or 4 wounds. I did this battle recently, and this is how it went for me. You see, I considered getting some Deathwatch to go with my Kill Team Cassius, and so I tried out the army. A lore thematic army, so 4 kill teams, a watch captain, the chaplain and librarian are already there in Kill Team Cassius, and with 4 Inquisition acolytes at the back taking notes. September is when my birthday is. I thought about getting a kill team and some nice Mark 6 models, but it's looking very expensive and food money has to come first, so I'll be sticking with Sisters and Genestealer Cult. I proxied from my Yellow Marines. The Primaris Fortis kill team is kind of funny to me. Their special rule is that they get +1 to hit if the enemy is below half strength, so I could just imagine them saying to their firstborn colleagues, "Dad, that Tyranid swarm's too big. Can you cut it up for me, please?" And oddly, they can't take the new Infernus Marines in the squad. They have to be fielded separately. I could say much more about the Deathwatch, the odd point cost and the optimal builds, but Kill Team Cassius did 4 wounds from shooting against the Norn Emissary and charged in with Oath of Moment. The damage I rolled was initially low, because other than the Crozius and the Power Fist, everything needs a 6 to wound, but thanks to the Catechism of Death, those 6s are devastating wounds. So I'd only done a few wounds, but then it's Ortan Cassius coming in with the steel chair! And he did 8 devastating wounds from his damage 2 weapon, killing the monster. 14 devastating wounds is the average. which should be just enough with the shooting to take down the Norn Emissary in one turn. Even more likely if you're using one of the Deathwatch doctrines to have lethal hits or sustained hits. And then, in my battle, the great thing was, all of the models have OC2, so I was able to hold the objective against the termagants that were behind the emissary on the objective. Kill Team Cassius is an amazing unit. Get it in your Space Marine army. There are certainly some drawbacks to Kill Team Cassius. You can't have any enhancements because Cassius is an epic hero. You can't include 2 squads because the epic hero. But there is no longer the law rule from 9th edition to say you shouldn't include this if your army also includes Primaris Marines, because the kill team was fighting when Chaplain Cassius still had a face before the first Tyrannic War, so there are no Primaris Marines. Some would say they were happier times, but I kind of like that the plot has advanced at least. 2003 to 2017 had some very drawn out plot to try and make anything relevant, and oh, it's coming, the 13th Black Crusade is coming, oh, it's gonna happen, oh, it'll be big, we're not gonna show it, but oh, it's coming, it sure is coming. And then eventually it happened, and it was for the better that the plot could actually move on. Can you name another unit that can do as much damage for 255 points? You probably can, and I would like to see you type it in the comments, but I think Cassius's team has been really overlooked. I just think they're neat. No matter the meta, you should play the units you love, and this unit is also pretty good. As Deathwatch units have had a points increase, Kill Team Cassius has not. The Genestealer cult would never have been uncovered if not for them, but we're not done. Oh, I'm Christian von Carmien, by the way. If we haven't met, hello. So Kill Team Cassius is the firstborn heroes that we may need right now. Unless you are fighting Tyranids, then do I have a devastating wound machine for you. It doesn't matter if they go to Legends, you can still use them in anything except tournaments. And if your opponent is bringing Tyranids, and you're not feeling particularly charitable, then employ some Tyrannic War Veterans. You see, after Cassius left Kill Team Cassius, he went back to the Ultramarines and decided, I need to use my Deathwatch experience in fighting Tyranids to found this whole group that's great at fighting Tyranids, but only within the Ultramarines chapter. So they only have the Ultramarines keyword. And the squad is conditional on having Tyranids fight for their abilities to work, but at 85 points for 5, they are also one of the cheapest ways to get 10 wounds holding an objective as a Space Marine player. 3 squads of them are the same as Kill Team Cassius, and against the Norn Emissary, 2 squads shooting and then charging with Oath of Moment, or 3 squads shooting will kill it. That's the Norn Emissary just dead. Now statistically, and we try not to rely on statistics, I know how bad we can be at rolling dice, but by law of averages, just 1 unit shooting and then charging should be enough to knock off those 16 wounds. Unless we're under the very specific situation of it choosing its singular purpose as one objective, it being on that one objective, and so it gets a 5+ feel no pain. Then it will take at least 2 squads, 10 Marines, to kill it in one turn. And without Oath of Moment, all 3 squads. The Norn Emissary is very big, and so they should have line of sight. Devastating wounds, care nothing for cover, and it has a big base to fit all 15 charging Marines from 3 squads around it if needs be. The 3 squads is the maximum allowed, and it is cheaper than the Norn Emissary. So if you can't take Deathwatch, take these Ultramarines. Do not forget your Legends units. And these are models with bolt guns and knives, so very easy to fulfill WYSIWYG. What is WYSIWYG and where do you fall on that? It is important to know before your next 40k game. Keep your wounds devastating, my darlings and viewers.